good evening, depending on what time you're listening to the podcast. It is another episode of Death in Cambodia, Life in America. This is Dorothy, your host. I have an incredible guest that I'm so excited to have on today. This girl, I met her like a year ago, and she talked to me a little bit about what she was doing and why she was doing it. And I was like, one day I'm going to have this girl on the podcast. We could talk about her story. Today, guys, we have Vanndearlyn Vong. She is the first generation Cambodian American potter and ceramist, born and raised in Long Beach, California. During the 1975 Khmer Rouge, I don't know if you guys know this, but Cambodian artists and artisans especially were targeted. And during that time, a lot of the Khmer ceramics actually were targeted and killed. And so there are really not that many ceramics today that actually follow the traditional Khmer methods. When I met Vanndearlyn about a year ago, she talked to me about how she had learned from one of the only teachers out there, Yary Livan, and she actually learned from his teachings, who is like one of the remaining people who actually know how to do this style of Khmer ceramics. And I thought it was so cool that a young Khmer American was actually trying her best to take that on and make sure that the legacy continues. She feels a responsibility to ensure the culture and traditions stay alive, and especially using the ceramics and the art to preserve culture as a form of resistance to the genocide as well. So she's based in Long Beach. Vanndearlyn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Dorothy, for your thorough and kind introduction. I'm so honored and grateful to be here today.
We're so excited to have you on. I always like to start this with especially when they're Khmer American, every guest that I have on the podcast, I usually like to start off with going back and telling me just a little bit about your childhood and how you grew up. And especially like your relationship to your Khmer-ness. I know that you were born and raised in Long Beach, right? So talk to me a little bit about what it was like growing up there.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Long Beach. I am the youngest of 5 siblings, year of the rabbit in the Chinese lunar calendar, and that very much like plays out in our family dynamic. So I was born and raised in Long Beach and still live there. I love it there. A lot of our community members are there. As for my childhood, I was actually around the donut shop a lot. Like we would go multiple times a week or nearly daily just to hang out and see what's up. And I would like help them scoop ice cream or like refill the sugar.
Did your parents own a donut shop, or are you just talking about your local shop?
Just my local shop nearby. My father, who I have kind of a like complicated relationship with, he used to own a jewelry store in Long Beach. A lot of folks know him, and that's how my mom met him. She was his customer. So I feel like it's so interesting because like a lot of my childhood, I felt very othered because of the schools I went to. They were like the predominantly white schools in Long Beach. And so I really felt that pressure to assimilate. Like at first in kindergarten, I struggled speaking English. So Khmer was my first language and I spoke fluently. But as I grew older and focused more on school, and there was also that pressure from my mom, right, of like, do good in school. And she also shared her experience, like, you know, they wouldn't give us free breakfast at school, like you should eat. But I like genuinely was not hungry sometimes. But I definitely felt different and othered because of how I look, just being Cambodian and struggling to speak English. And as I slowly like got my handle on the language, I just focused on school. I always loved the arts as a little kid. Like in elementary, they had an art program called Meet the Masters where they'd show us these different artists like Van Gogh, Monet, Matisse, and we would like replicate their techniques. And that continued through middle school too. I actually like loved carving. Like that act of carving, I think is ancestral for us because it's on stones that are centuries old, like in Old Khmer and Sanskrit, that tell you this is what this person donated to the temple, you know. like leaving these reminders for us that continue on today.
Mm-hmm. So when you say that you felt othered because you were growing up in a predominantly white school, when people asked you what you were, did you have reluctance responding that you were Cambodian, or what was your relationship to being Cambodian?
Yeah, that was interesting. People didn't really ask me that until a little bit later, like teenage years.
Yeah.
But I remember one time in middle school, one of my English teacher asked the class if anyone else speaks any language other than English. And I told her I speak Khmer. And I was like proud to do that and happy that she actually knew what it was. I didn't think she would know what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really an interesting topic that everyone
Definitely.
growing up has a different relationship with. And I know we'll talk about this in a little bit because I know, you one of the main things that you've created was the donut pipe ceramic and kind of the story behind that. But for a while, Cambodians didn't really have like the best reputation when people
Mhm.
had asked, "What are you?" And I guess
Right.
in the quote unquote hierarchy of the different
Yeah.
kinds of Asians that are here in
Race.
America,
Yeah. We're the
it's
ghetto Asians.
yeah, yeah. And it's an interesting conversation and an interesting perspective to kind of grow up being categorized as that. So I don't
Yeah.
know if that was something that you struggled with when you grew up or
Definitely, yeah. In
yeah.
terms of my identity, because it's like, all right, I'm just trying to do well in school, like keep up my good grades, and that entails like knowing English really well. And yeah, it was very much something I had to like navigate within my identity, and I still do today. But as a kid, it was like naturally I was fluent in Khmer. I never really questioned my identity until later, seeing
Mhm.
like white kids and other kids. But there came a moment like in high school when I was a teenager because of the cultural gap between my mom and I, like it really became like my English, so it went from fluent as a child to now like toddler level and as a teenager. And so I feel like that contributed to a lot of misunderstanding and arguments with my mom. And it's like it's also like became a thing of like, okay, mom, like I understand where you're coming from, but I was born here and like we don't have to abide by the rules in Cambodia here. Like that's I questioned a lot of our culture, but so and because of like that arguing and rift and cultural gap between my mom and I feel like I came to a realization that like if I allow myself to completely lose the Khmer, like I'm gonna lose the connection to her.
Mhm. Mhm.
So my relationship with my identity became something that I like first never questioned and never had to something that I had to like search for and find and like learn about where I come from first to understand myself more and my
Yeah.
parents too, to understand like, okay, this is the context they came from and it doesn't excuse them like inflicting trauma on people, but they also don't know they are. It's like so much
Yeah. Yeah.
navigate.
Yeah, and I think that all such really great points because I almost feel like every single Cambodian American that I have spoken with has had this wave of like
Yeah, it's like
rejection, but
yeah,
then eventually realizing like this is all that we have, and then also realizing like our parents did the best they could, and it's
truly.
I think it's the reason why there are so many people who are moving back to Cambodia. And I just had a
I
great,
agree.
a great conversation with Priscilla Kim Ong,
Oh
also
my
known as
gosh.
Selah, who is living in Cambodia. And she
Yes.
started this kind of like travel homecoming experience for a bunch of Gonkhmais. But I was talking to her about the same thing and just like talking with you, like there are so many Cambodian diaspora people, whether it be in the US or France or in Australia,
Yeah,
who are
across.
craving, like a sense of
Yearning.
yearning
Yeah.
for like a sense of reconnection to
Yeah.
something outside of just being American or being Australian or being French,
Yeah.
because not only is it kind of lost through the war, like a lot of it, the
Mhm.
culture is lost, but
The
also
erasure.
erasure that had happened just not that long ago, but also the like language barrier that is so
Mhm.
quickly, so
And
that happens with our parents.
And
So
speaking of language barrier, I don't know if you've seen that clip that's like been spreading on social media. It's this show set in a hospital, and there's a Khmer patient
yes,
saying like "Ah ching de," like it's not, and then the nurses are like "Ah ching ya, ah ching ya," and it's like so funny, but also on the flip side, it's not because it like I just feel like if I were in that room, I would have been translating like
yeah, and
it's like call my child, call my son. Sorry.
it's such a lost language, and it takes so much more effort, I think, for just
Yeah.
Cambodian people to like have a ounce of claiming of their identity in some way. And
Mhm.
and that's coming from you who had grown up in Long Beach with a very, very
The
strong
largest, yeah,
Cambodian presence. Like, can you imagine other people in like other Cambodian Americans
smaller.
in like Texas or like,
Right.
like other places who truly don't
Yeah.
have anything
In
to grasp
Europe.
onto?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's super common what you're experiencing. It
Yeah.
looks like you decided to latch onto a certain medium to kind of connect yourself to the
Yeah.
Khmer culture.
I think I
Um,
fell into it. I started working with clay, I think in late 2021 or 2022.
mhm.
So this was like still during COVID. And at that time, I was still finishing college as a student to get my bachelor's. And I was working part time at City Hall for a council member. And because of that, I was like glued to the screen all day and sick of that. And my husband now, who was then my boyfriend, he was working out of a pottery studio in Los Angeles. And they like since it was totally empty and shut down, they were okay with me just like messing with clay and doing my homework. And from there I took one of their wheel throwing classes and like kept messing with the medium. And a year into it I was researching and I found out about Master Yary Livan and saw that he's on Facebook and reached out to him and said like, I really love working with clay. Can I please learn from you? And from there we arranged for me to visit him in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I was able to learn from him for 2 weeks, and it was such an amazing experience because of all of the knowledge he shared. And also getting to use the wood burning kiln was a lot of fun. It felt very primitive and ancestral. And I was imagining, like, wow, I wonder how, like, back in the day, our ancestors would have done this and what snacks we would have eaten. Because we had some corn, and in the kiln, right, it's just burning wood and a lot of smoke. So through the vent, we put some corn and got to snack on that at like 3 a.m. We got
is
up at
that
like 2 a.m. to start the kindling for the kiln.
is that like a program that he actively takes kind of students on and he teaches, or was that really something that you took the initiative to just be like, please teach me?
Well, he doesn't have a formal program, but in general, he teaches, I believe, at like two schools in Massachusetts. And so with my visit, we lined it up so that I just like sat in on his existing class. And
Okay.
then, but then I would like stay after. I would spend at least like 8 hours a day, like working on the clay, but it was so fun. And I just wanted to absorb as much knowledge as I could since we have limited time. And specifically with clay, it's tough because it starts drying.
Mhm.
And with our carving, you have to carve it at the right dryness, too soft, and it's like won't hold its shape, and too dry, and it just chips away. But
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about your discovery of the fact that he was he's basically one of the, you said one of the two only
Yeah.
teachers out there who had learned and have still, I mean, are still kept this kind of traditional way of Khmer ceramics. Like, walk me through that realization and
Mhm.
that whole feeling of thinking maybe this is going to be like a purpose of mine in the future.
Yeah, when I learned that he's only one of two living masters left, and he's the only one in the US, the other one is in Cambodia. I was really emotional just to like understand the gravity of like how much the impact the genocide had on artists. And related to that was my family, my parents' reaction to like me pursuing this. Like my mom, she said it was like useless, like worthless. And that was hard to hear as her daughter because like it's really something I love and I care about. And I think as a child, you're like, you just want your parent to love and support you. But then as like I feel so privileged to be an American and like understanding what happened. Like, well, when my mom was growing up, they were destroying the culture, everything. She, didn't really get to go to school. She can't really read and write well. And so these things are not her fault. Like, that she doesn't understand, like, the gravity or importance of the art, at least at that time. And then on the flip side, every person has a painting of Angkor Wat in their living room. It's like, so you somehow like don't have the language to name the importance of art, yet it surrounds you. And we like run to it. We want our traditional weddings, our silks for the temple, Shompen, like all of these traditions and customs that we practice. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I understand because of what you went through.
Yeah. I think we have to give them grace too,
Yeah.
because I mean,
Yes.
because their country betrayed them,
Yeah.
and anything associated with the country, and this is coming from my experience as well. Like, I don't speak Khmer because my parents refused to talk to me in it because they
Mhm.
didn't care to have me learn, because they were like, I don't want you to learn a language from a country that had like tried to kill me. So
Yeah.
it's sad now as an adult, and I'm like, dang it, like I really wish that I could. I mean, I can understand some of it, but
Yeah.
the language and the art and everything, it's this weird relationship that our parents have with it.
Yeah.
It's this love-hate relationship that unfortunately sometimes comes off in a way to us
Mm.
that's incredibly harsh. But I think what you experience is definitely something that a lot of people have experienced. How many of our
Yeah.
parents are speaking from a place of survival? Probably all of them,
Yeah.
from the fact that they had survived so much. And so it is tough. Have you felt like she's changed her mind slowly, and her perspective on art? Like, how is it now
Yeah, I
compared to
think
before?
so. I think she's like come to see just how much it makes me happy, like just as her daughter, and that like it's something I've kept continuing through these years.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think it helps. Like, I made her a rice pot. It's like, I'll send you the photo, and it's like functional. It's red and white clay. Like, I really tried to make it look like something from Cambodia. And then it like has led to really just like interesting conversation because she's like, oh yeah, well, like her memory is like, well, when I was younger, we would cook with like a clay stove. And I've found like content on Facebook and Instagram. There are folks still continuing it in Cambodia. And she's like, yeah, that's what it looks like. And then so my husband and I were like, we can make that. Like,
Yeah.
we can add more detail.
We can make it prettier, Mom. Don't worry. Most of our listeners probably, when they see ceramics, they don't know the differences. What are the techniques, and what is it about the way that you have learned that makes it truly Khmer ceramics versus other ceramics?
Yeah. Well, foundationally in Khmer art, we have ornaments or motifs that come from nature. For example, like the circle shape comes from the fish egg. I actually have some examples. This is a cup I made recently, and it has this flower with 4 petals. That's called the Chan flower.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish I had my book. I would have brought it. I'll definitely send it. What else are there? Water buffalo teeth. If you've seen a water buffalo, we use their tooth in repeating rows. So across our art, you can find these traditional motifs, and usually they're in a composition. Like at the temple, there's a column, and you'll see a row of flowers, and then this blank, we call it a frame, which comes from architecture. And then there might be fish eggs, another blank, and then lotus petals, and it goes on. And like that might frame a scene of like Apsara or whichever story that temple is like sharing about. Yeah, what makes these ceramics Khmer specifically is that they have the motifs, and specifically through the relief technique that you can see on the temples, the bas reliefs. That is the act of removing the material so that it looks raised. And so that's why it looks like that in Angkor, like the turning of the milk, where they're all tugging on that rope. And I believe there's a turtle in the center, and it's a fight of good over evil.
So, just to clarify, it's the act of doing it and then like taking this first layer off so that it looks raised. Is that's specifically Khmer?
Yeah, the relief, the bas reliefs that goes back centuries, and I feel like it's connected to like just the first like people who started leaving like inscribed stones behind for us. And like the temples were built in a similar way. They like put the dowel through the stones and then like sanded them tight to fit, and then from there they carved it. And it's so cool to see even today, like to think like, wow, Angkor Wat was built in the 12th century and completed within like 50 years. That's unheard of. Nobody speaks about it. It's not built on any foundation. Like, I'm tired of hearing about the Eiffel Tower. Let's talk about Angkor Wat, the world's largest Hindu temple.
Yeah. What about the type of clay? Does that matter? And you also mentioned when you were learning under Yary Livan, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
That you did some sort of thing that was like wood burning.
Yeah.
Like is that specifically Khmer, or like is that
Yes.
just in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's more traditional. There are a lot of very old Khmer kilns that like, back then, centuries ago, what was in the empire, like the kilns are still in Thailand and what have you. And they're still finding, like they found these really gorgeous intact pieces of like gold in Laos, but at that time, it was part of the empire. The clay is really interesting. I would say the type does not matter so much as long as it's usable. Like, for example, sometimes the clay is too dry or we call it too short to where, like, it's not malleable enough to alter the form. But Lacroix Yary has shared back in his day, and I've heard from others too, that, like, well, when they were children in Cambodia, sometimes you would naturally find some clay and mess with it. And like one auntie said, it was like different colors and she'd just like squeeze it together and mess with it. And to me, that's really interesting to think about because it's a naturally occurring resource. And considering that Cambodia actually has 4 rivers that intersect. And for me, and we're getting now into like wild clay or raw clay, which is just a natural clay that forms over the years. We have that, and that's why we have the Kampong Chhnang province. Like there's like a whole bank of clay that they've been using. I saw that it's running low. So then like because of that, then you have your costs go up because then you have to buy manufactured clay, which is what most people do. And most people, to my knowledge at least, they The ceramics, they have to be fired. So the clay is made of very fine particles that are malleable. So you can recycle your clay. Let's say I made this and it broke. I can just recycle the clay and make something new. But let's say I put it through that first firing, then those fine particles of clay they're now vitrified and together. That's when it becomes ceramic. And so that requires like energy. And for us traditionally, I've seen them fire it just like in an open pit with a lot of straw over it. So there are also different types of clay, like that kind of firing you would do with a low fire clay. And clay is, I say it's like similar to meat in that you need specific temperatures for different types of meat. It's similar for the different kinds of clay, like a clay with a higher cone temperature needs a higher firing and more heat.
What was in ancient times, if we were kind of to go back to like ancient Khmer,
Yeah.
they used natural clay, right? I would assume.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that type of clay, did that require high heat, low heat? And is that something that like you specifically were taught from Livan?
I think we have different varieties of clay because that like open firing with the straw, that's for low fire clay. But then knowing we also had the wood burning firings, those go much higher to cone
Okay.
10. And so that tells me we have like some different sources of clay available. And LaCroix shared like it's also a matter of like who knows where that clay is. Because hypothetically, right, let's say I stumbled upon it and I don't want to share where I got it with anyone, and it's a really good clay. But then it's also like LaCroix said, like with the like Bong Bong, where the elder like people, if you hang around them and like help them out, like try to learn, then you might get in on the secret.
Yeah, yeah. But back
It's
then, like
interesting.
in Cambodia, there would only be kind of one type of natural clay, I would assume, right? But or maybe not.
Maybe a variety,
Maybe a
depending
variety,
on
depending. Okay.
like if you know where to get it, if you know where it's at.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting to me about the Four Rivers because like it travels through the water and it gets deposited. It's like to
Right.
me it's like gold.
Because it takes a
Yeah.
certain level of like formulaic water slash sand slash
Yeah.
whatever to
Yeah, the
create.
clay is a specific like size molecule, so it
Right.
takes a long time for it to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Um but it's been cool because I found raw clay in Long Beach at the ocean and I tested it and like real found out that it's a low fire clay. So like when I put it in cone 5, it was like I overcooked the meat. Like it like melted because it got too hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so interesting. And are you currently one of the only, I mean, I guess in the US, if there's only one Lokru Livan in East Coast, and then there's you that's kind of learning from him and actually actively making the ceramics, like,
There is another person, my friend Kevin. He has been like trying to get back into the clay, but for his master's project, he did an elephant making workshop with LaCroix in Chicago at the Cambodian Museum,
yeah.
Heritage Museum. And that was like in early January of 2025. And like a couple of others have reached out to me to say they're interested in learning. So I hope as many people can learn from him as possible.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just so important, right? Like
I
not
agree.
only are we seeing this resurgence definitely within the Cambodian music industry, as we've seen with like these really cool artists that are coming and
Yeah.
rapping, and the festivals that we're trying to host for ourselves.
Mhm.
But there are so much more art forms out there that truly needs to be preserved, and it feels like we're starting from scratch essentially, right? Because most of the artists were wiped out during that time. And
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about maybe something that we have touched upon a little bit earlier, but your use of art as a way to resist against, certain political things that have happened. For example, I saw an interview about kind of the reasoning behind the donut pipe ceramic that you've created. Talk to me a little bit about how you use your art to essentially, make these statements.
Yeah, I think, well, art is something that's always been dear to me since I was young. And I think it really can shape the world. It has an impact on society. It's definitely what I turned to during COVID. And I'm sure we can say that for everyone, whether it was like art or doing something with your hands. I know a lot of people were like trying to make bread or do something. So I think art is something that a lot of people forget because it surrounds us. It's part of our daily life. We have the radio, we have music, like we're bombarded by ads and like commercials. But I think art is what we turn to like when we need to feel better for comfort. And that's something I find myself doing. Like to me, it's resistance because through working with the clay, I also listen to a lot of the old Khmer rock and Khmer music. So then I feel like I'm keeping my handle on the language and I'm learning these motifs that they carve. And pretty often I'll look at temple photos and not exactly recreate the design, but I might combine it with another design I liked to make it my own and try to compose something so that it's like still my own art, but still honoring the ancestors. And I think about that a lot too. It's like, what would the ancestors think of my art? And I think about, I love carving so much. Like, was I a carver in a past life? Like, could I have like chiseled those fish eggs on that column? Like, art is so powerful. It's a part of our culture. It's something that, like you said about the love hate part, as much as we may try to survive and assimilate, which is like, I know necessary to some extent, it's also like you said too, naturally we all yearn for our roots. We are not meant to be in diaspora, really. It's because of America's intervention and the cascade of events that followed that we even became refugees and these poor people. Because before this time, before colonization, we were, we and still have, I think, a very rich, beautiful culture. It's just that we've been separated from that because of what's happened with America's involvement and how the country continues to treat its people.
The aftermath of the US involvement in 1975 and us becoming refugees here in the United States led to something that I had mentioned and we just talked about earlier, but like this horrible, unfortunate reputation of Cambodians being, drug dealers, gang members, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, all of which I attribute to, quite honestly, unresolved PTSD. I mean, what did you
Yes.
really expect from, people who had survived a genocide and then just being dropped into a new land? So,
Exactly. To me, it's like you have manipulated us to be in this vulnerable position, and then you blame us and don't tell us our rights, and then they get deported. And I know this is real. I've spoken to people who've been deported who were not told their rights, and that is a violation of their fundamental rights. So it's really ironic to me how America dabbles in other countries, and even right now today, to see the parallels in Gaza. It's like, what would you have done in our time, in our parents' time?
Yeah. And so that was a lot of the fuel behind creating the donut pipe ceramic from my understanding, right? Talk to me just a little bit about the inspiration behind specifically why you decided to create like a pipe?
Yeah, starting with that form, the donut pipe, with like my childhood at the donut shop. I of course love most donuts. And so with the donuts, it was a really fun form because you can have a variety of flavors. Like I did red velvet, and you can like play with the glazes and how they look. And specifically it being a pipe, I felt that it was against the grain and rebellious because I know it's taboo in our culture and even still in American culture too, where like it's not legal in certain states. I felt that it was kind of a way to resist and be like, yeah, we're allowed to do this. Like this is art, it's functional art. And kind of my way of like being stubborn, I guess, of like, I know it's related to paraphernalia, but I don't care. Like it's, the donut is meaningful to me. I mean, and also you can use it as an incense holder. Like some elders asked if it was an incense holder, and I was like, yeah, it is. It's functional.
It can be whatever you want it to be, boo.
Exactly. But so those pipes were also a way to fundraise because at that time I was part of, and we were just a group of like 4 volunteers who came together to try to free. Well, actually, we freed one person from ICE. His name is Rot Maithong. And so he had committed a crime. He was not told his rights. And I call it like my past life, but my experience before all of this, I was actually involved in politics and like political campaigning. And so I used what I learned from there to try to campaign for Rot for him to be free. And so I was like making social media posts, trying to get people to take action and sign on to the petition to free him. And we went on Khmer TV to share his story and spread the word, and it worked.
Wow.
And people did take action. And I really feel like our community is ready to help like each other when we have the opportunity. It's just like presenting that chance and making it like easy to help or to know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think and I know that you had graduated with a degree in political science. And so it does make sense to me that you have that background. And I think it's really cool that you are finding this really creative way to weave the two and creating something that is not only preserving a dying art, but also something that can make a statement towards something, right? There is a beautiful balance that you have found with those two things. If you were to look at your future, now that you have this skill, what is your goal with it? And where do you see yourself going in the future with it?
Yeah, my goal is definitely to keep continuing my learning of the motifs because there are like so many detailed carvings that like for me it would be a huge achievement to like be able to replicate a detailed carving. I am slowly like doing that. I reference a lot of the temple images and I'll like recreate the design, but my version is simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to like one day get to like be able to recreate what they've made, but also to continue sharing that knowledge, which I think I have been and trying my best to through my Khmer ceramics classes. And there have been quite a few Khmer people who take it and a variety of folks each time, which is really beautiful to see that others want to learn our culture. I am going back to school this February, next week actually, and I'm taking the 2nd level of ceramics at Long Beach City College. I am considering earning a master's degree in ceramics because it's where my heart is, but also I feel that like it would be an amazing opportunity if I could do more research in Cambodia. Like something Master Yary said was like So our glazes, our traditional glazes in Cambodia, they're made from like the local rocks surrounding the mountain, but it's a matter of knowing like where to find them and which ones to use and in what ratios for the glaze. And LaCruz said, like, I don't know what they're called. So I would want to like learn about our glaze making and like get those rocks tested and see what our glazes are made of and recreate what our ancestors made. Yeah, I would love to visit for the first time and learn ceramics over there and see the temples.
Yeah. You have not visited Cambodia before. Is that something in the near future? Like, it seems that this may potentially be a personal homecoming slash ceramic learning trip for you.
I hope so. I've been trying to save up for it. It's just a matter of like buying the plane ticket when like the price is ideal. I've heard November and December are a good time to go because it's not too hot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe this November it'll be our 2-year wedding anniversary, and we haven't gone on a honeymoon yet.
So, honey, come with me to our honeymoon slash my homecoming trip.
He's picked up a few words in Khmer. It's so funny. He's like, "Awkward drown bomb."
Hey, that's better than nothing. That's awesome. Well, Vanndearlyn, where can people find your work? I know that you have some on your website, but where can people find you, follow you, and maybe even purchase some of your ceramics that you've made?
Yeah. You can connect with me on Instagram. It's just my name, Vanndearlyn. And there I try to post like pretty often of like what I'm currently working on in my process. I also have my website, vanndearlyn.com, which has my online shop and a commission form. Quite a few folks have commissioned me to make a gift for a loved one, which has been really beautiful and fun. And you can also take my Khmer ceramics class at Pot Gardens if you're interested in learning yourself how to do the carvings. But yeah, Instagram is the best way to connect with me.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about your background and where you're going, kind of the purpose and the motivation behind this whole thing. I really do think it's so important, just so important that we carry on these traditions. And not only that, but like just honestly make sure that these mediums aren't lost. And as I mentioned before, most of us in the culture are starting from scratch, but are truly yearning for something to grasp onto. And, ceramics is one medium that seems to be, as we've spoken about, 4 rivers in Cambodia. So it only makes sense that, like, if you go back far enough, the carvings and everything that is very, very much rooted in our kind of ancestral, culture and art. So just making sure
Yes.
that's not lost and is continued on regardless of 1975, regardless of parents who maybe have lost their faith in a country that, unfortunately lost their faith in a country that truly was so rich in the different art forms. So people like yourself, I personally am not an artist, but somebody out there needs to be. So people like yourself need to be doing this good work. And I appreciate you having just leaning into that, even though that, not everybody may seem and see that value. I truly believe that that's so important for the future.
Aww. And I think you are an artist. It's just that your medium is different. It's not clay, it's people. And the impact you're having on this platform that allows us to share our stories and is thankfully documenting the stories for the future, too.
Yeah.
I think we all have, like, are, maybe blessed with, like, our talents and are lucky enough to find where we fit in to all of this. So I appreciate you for all that you do too.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Vanny, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.